Hey everybody, welcome back. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your 2022. Today's video is about crosswalks in Lisbon, Portugal. And I want to give you a little bit of history as to, why am I making a video about crosswalks in Portugal and in Lisbon is because things have changed from the time that we had traveled here throughout the 2016, 2017, 2018, and then when we moved here in 2019, until now, so that if you are looking to come here for a visit or potentially move, I want to make sure that it's something that you're aware of, that you may be taking your life in your own hands in some cases, and you need to be super careful when you're crossing these crosswalks. So a couple of things. When I'm talking about the crosswalks, I'm showing videos here. This is not at street corner where there's street lights or marked signage crosswalks. I'm talking about crosswalks. There's thousands of these in Portugal that they have the white lines for you to walk across the street, but they're not with the crossing the green or red markings or at stoplights. When we moved here and even when we traveled here, at any point in time when we entered the crosswalk, of course, you're going to look each way to make sure traffic is stopping. But when we would enter, 90% of the vehicles, so buses, taxis, trams, Ubers, motorbikes, mopeds, things of that nature, they would stop, walk across the street, and then they get going again. And after we moved here in 2019, we felt very comfortable and very safe walking in these intersections and, these crosswalks. Well, throughout the pandemic, as things were shut down, a lot of people had free reign to be able to drive all over the place unimpeded without anybody really walking around much or having to stop and start because there's pedestrians walking across the street. In the last 6 months, I would say there's probably no less than 10 times where I've entered a crosswalk and cars keep going. So I have to run through, or I'm in the middle and a car coming from the opposite direction isn't stopping for me and I'm in the middle of the crosswalk. That's something that is becoming more frequent. And I will tell you that buses, trams, taxis have always been very respectful of pedestrians walking in this crosswalk area. It seems like it's either locals or tourists with cars. I can tell you some of the worst offenders are like the Uber, the food service drivers on the mopeds or motorbikes. They just go around you. Sometimes I've almost been run into multiple times just in the last couple of weeks where they just don't pay attention and they don't stop. So that's something that I wanted to make the video. I felt after this morning almost getting hit again that I should make a video because as you are new to Lisbon, you're a tourist, you're just walking around vacationing, or you recently moved, you're going to spend a lot of time looking up and looking around at the buildings, the architecture, the tiles. Hopefully it's the blue sky. And because of that, oftentimes you make an assumption when you're going to be entering these crosswalks that you're not going to have any issues. Or if you've come in past years, let's say pre-pandemic, you are probably used to being able to walk across the street on these crosswalks without any issue or little issue. I can say now, outside of the taxis, the buses, and the trams, 70 or 80% of the cars don't stop. And you have literally you're in there. I've had a few people screech tires, whether they're not paying attention or whatnot, that you really have to be careful when you're walking in Lisbon now more than ever. And I'm saying this because we don't even have the tourists back yet. It's mostly locals with some tourists. But people, I think, have gotten used to driving in so many areas without seeing many pedestrians around that it's something that you need to be careful of, because we've seen a few accidents recently just on the main street next to our apartment where people have been hit and it's pedestrians walking a certain crosswalk that's next to us. So I want you to be aware of that as you're going around, because again, this is a beautiful city where you're going to be spending a lot of time looking up and around, and you may assume that when you enter this area that the cars are going to stop. I will say there's probably some high tourist areas where that'll happen, but not always. We were walking around looking at holiday lights in December, and in the high tourism areas, the Chiado, the Barrio Alto, the Baixa, several cars didn't stop. They just kept going, and so the pedestrians are frustrated with what's going on, and it's something that I think it's worth making sure that you're aware of. So as you watch the playlist of videos of what to expect when you get to Portugal, whether you're vacationing or living, it's something that you need to be aware of. I will also say, I think it's more of a Lisbon issue. You can comment if you disagree with me, if it's something that goes on in Porto or the Algarve. We've been to the Algarve a dozen times, have had zero issues. Been to Porto several times, no issues crossing streets. As well as in little towns, smaller villages, or smaller, like Tomar, even Coimbra, haven't had, when we go to enter a crosswalk, 90% or more of the cars stop, the bikes, and there's no issues. But Lisbon, it's not quite the case. You have more people that are disregarding the pedestrians and either swerving around, or pedestrians have to go in and either run across or back up as they're entering, because you just never know these days. So make sure you keep your head on the swivel. You're not, looking at your phone or listening to music. You are truly paying attention to things, because I'd hate to have something happen. And as I can mention, we've seen a few ambulances pick up people just on our street in the last probably 3 weeks. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video, a little informative, more of a PSA on what to do when you're here in Lisbon. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great day.